They say old habits die hard, and for me that's getting up before dawn, no alarm needed. At 76 my body still moves like it remembers the years spent wiring power lines in the cold, unforgiving wind. Before we continue, please subscribe my channel for such more stories and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The ache in my knees greets me before the sun does. Still I rise. It's what I've always done. From the downstairs bedroom, the one my daughter remodeled when I moved in with her, I hear the clatter of the refrigerator and the soft shuffle of slippers. She's making breakfast for her husband, I imagine, just like every morning. A knock comes right on cue. "Dad, you still breathing?" That's Ruby, my youngest. Always blunt, always too busy for pleasantries. I clear my throat. "Not yet. But I'll keep you posted." She doesn't wait for a laugh, doesn't even wait for me to open the door. I swing my legs over the bed, bones groaning, and catch my reflection in the mirror. An old man with thinning white hair, deep lines carved into his face, an electrician's hands still bearing the scars of honest work. To everyone in this house, I'm just that the old man in the guest room, a tenant. Really, paying $2,000 in rent each month. That's what Ruby and her husband Clark call it. They think this house belongs to them, but the truth is, I bought this house 18 years ago with the lottery money I never told a soul about. Not Ruby, not my son Blake, not even my late wife Maggie. She was already sick when the numbers hit. I didn't want to give her false hope. I tucked the winnings away quietly. Let Ruby and Blake believe I was still on a modest pension. That was the only way to keep them from circling like sharks. Every time Maggie and I helped them with cash, it only led to another ask, another emergency. So I did what I thought was right. I bought this 3-story home in a good part of town, then told them I found a great rental deal, and when Maggie passed, I moved in with Ruby. Or so she thought. Now every month, I quietly wire money between my own accounts, rent, utilities, all of it. Clark complains about the electric bill. Ruby complains about the food I eat, and I smile through it all, knowing I'm paying for my own house, and they have no idea. At breakfast, Clark is already buried in his laptop, frowning at a spreadsheet like it insulted his mother. Ruby drops a bowl of dry oatmeal in front of me. No butter, no sugar, just half a banana sliced on top. "It's good for your cholesterol," she says, though we both know it's more about the grocery bill than my health. I don't argue. I stir the cement like mush in silence. "You know Blake and his kids are coming over today," she reminds me, sipping her coffee like a judge waiting to pass sentence. "Try not to sulk in your room like last time." I don't sulk, I say. I just don't enjoy being treated like a checkbook with legs. Clark chuckles under his breath. Ruby scowls at him, then turns back to me. "You're being unfair. We took you in. We feed you. We drive you to appointments. The least you can do is not start drama." The words sting, but I've heard them before. They always find a way to remind me I'm a burden. Across the room, my granddaughter June walks in, 19, bright-eyed, full of energy I barely remember having. She leans in and kisses my cheek. "Morning, Grandpa. You sleep okay?" Half the night counting sheep, the other half counting how many toes I can still feel. She laughs. The only one who ever does. Ruby just rolls her eyes. I watch June grab an apple and a coffee, then hurry off to class. Ruby blocks her exit just long enough to remind her of chores. "Oh, and tell Grandpa he's got to be home all day tomorrow. Plumber's coming to look at that leak again." June throws me an apologetic glance. I nod. What choice do I have? The front door shuts behind her. Clark rises, stretches like a cat, and looks at me. "Hey Earl, try to be mindful with the lights." "Yeah, the bill was sky high last month." I nod again. No point in arguing. I haven't had a light on past 8 p.m. in weeks, but they've already made up their minds. I'm expensive. They think they're supporting me. They have no idea whose name is on the deed hanging in that locked drawer upstairs, and they sure don't know what's coming. By noon the house fills with voices, some louder than others, none particularly aimed at me. Blake arrives in his usual whirlwind, trailing behind him a tired-looking wife named Meredith, and their 2 kids, Ethan and Chloe. both glued to their phones like the world outside doesn't exist. Ruby greets them at the door with arms wide open, and a voice laced with sugar. "Blake, it's been too long. You look great." She hugs him like they haven't spoken in months, even though I know they talk every other day, usually about money. Clark steps in from his office, hand outstretched. "Blake, how's the trucking business?" Blake shrugs. "Busy, stressful. You know how it is." I wait quietly in the corner, hands clasped behind my back. Blake spots me, and offers a brief nod before giving me an awkward pat on the back. "How's the old ticker, Dad?" "Still ticking," I say. "Still not battery operated either." He laughs politely, but it doesn't reach his eyes. I've seen that expression before. It's the same one he wore when he was 12 and wanted money for a new bike because his old one wasn't cool enough. The same look, just stretched across a grown man's face. After some small talk, we settle into the living room. Meredith disappears into the kitchen with Ruby, no doubt bonding over high-protein meal plans and their husband's stress levels. The kids remain on the couch, barely lifting their heads to acknowledge my existence. Blake lowers his voice as he sits next to me. "Dad, I wanted to talk to you about something. Business is tight right now. There's a contract coming up with Ridgeway Freight, and if we can just update a couple of rigs, I'm confident we'll land it." I nod, waiting for the ask. He leans closer. "Any chance you've got some savings stashed away, even a small loan, just to hold me over? I'd pay it back, interest and all." It hasn't even been 10 minutes since he walked through the door. I fold my hands in my lap, eyes still on the family portrait above the fireplace, the one taken before Maggie passed, when we still believed family meant something deeper. "I wish I could help," I say carefully, "but between my pension and the rent Ruby charges, I'm just scraping by." He blinks. "Seriously? Nothing set aside? No nest egg?" I say. "Just Social Security, a few tools, and this bowl of oatmeal they keep serving me." He chuckles, but I can see the disappointment behind his smile. That greedy flicker in his eye fades into something colder. The rest of the visit passes like a Sunday stuck in traffic. Slow, awkward, full of shallow conversation and hollow laughter. By mid-afternoon, Blake announces they have to leave early. Something about a client meeting. Meredith looks relieved. As the front door closes, Ruby turns to me with a scowl. "What did you say to him?" I tilt my head. "Excuse me." He looked upset. "You couldn't just be nice. He's under pressure, Dad. You could have at least listened." "I did listen," I say calmly. "I listened to another request for money, wrapped in a 5-minute hello." Ruby crosses her arms. "You act like we're bleeding you dry. You live here. You eat our food. You use our power. What would you do if we weren't helping you?" The words settle into the air like smoke. I think about replying, about reminding her whose name is on the deed, about how they never paid a dime in rent, about how they've been living like royalty while I spoon oatmeal into my mouth and call it breakfast. But I don't say any of that. I just smile the smile I've perfected over the last 2 decades. "You're right," I say. "I should be more thankful." She seems satisfied with that, which tells me more than her words ever could. That night, as I sit in my room tuning the old ham radio I restored years ago, I feel Maggie's absence more than ever. She used to sit beside me on evenings like this, tea in hand, humming while I fiddled with dials and cables. I wonder what she'd say now. Would she call me a coward for hiding the truth? Or would she tell me it's time? Time to stop letting them leech off my silence. Time to take back what's mine. I don't know the answer yet, but I'm getting closer. The following morning brought no surprises. At least, not yet. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping a weak cup of black coffee, when Ruby walked in already mid-sentence about water bills and thermostat settings. "Your room was warm last night," she said, her tone clipped. "We need to be more conscious with the heat. Clark thinks the furnace is working too hard." "Furnace is fine," I replied without looking up. "The insulation's just thin." Ruby sighed, more dramatic than usual. She dropped a stack of envelopes onto the table. Electric, gas, water, and a note in her handwriting. $2,400 rent due by Monday. Utilities, $400. It had gone up again. I stared at the number, letting the silence grow thick. It was $2,000 last month, I said finally. Inflation, she replied without flinching. And you've been home more lately. Lights, TV, hot water, it all adds up. Home more, as if I had anywhere else to be. Before I could respond, she was already pouring herself a glass of orange juice and rattling off her schedule for the day. Clark's meeting with the tax advisor, and I've got to run to the bank. Don't forget the plumber is coming by at noon to check the leak in your bathroom. I nodded slowly. The same leak she'd blamed on me, as if 40 years of engineering meant I couldn't tighten a valve without breaking the whole damn pipe. After breakfast, I retreated to my room. The place that once felt like a sanctuary now felt more like a holding cell. I sat in my recliner, one of the few things I actually owned outright, and stared out the window at the yard I'd mowed for 15 years. The azaleas Maggie once adored now mostly neglected. The yard was ours once, mine and hers. Now it was Ruby's property, though she hadn't paid a cent of the mortgage, taxes or insurance. I thought back to the day I signed the papers. Quietly, no fanfare, just a transfer of lottery winnings into a down payment, and then into a home I thought would shelter the family Maggie and I had built. Instead it had become a cage of resentment. Around 11:45, a black sedan pulled up to the curb. A well-dressed man with slick hair and a leather portfolio stepped out. I didn't need to ask who he was. The realtor, Harper, the neighbor, had been right. The market was red hot, and just last week, I'd spoken to this very man, Marcus Lang, about possibilities, hypotheticals. But today wasn't hypothetical anymore. Marcus greeted me with a practiced smile. Mr. Kenton, good to see you again. Is now still a good time for the walkthrough? I nodded. Ruby's out. Should be clear until at least 4. He stepped inside, and for the next 30 minutes, he took photos of every room, each corner of the house carefully staged, not for beauty, but for accuracy. I watched in silence as he documented the life I had once imagined retiring in, now captured as assets on a market listing. Interested buyers won't be a problem, Marcus said as he packed up. You're sitting on a high-demand property. If we price it right, we'll have offers in less than a week. I handed him the spare key, discreetly. Only weekdays. Don't leave a trace. Understood. He nodded. Your name stays off the listing. We'll register the sale through the LLC you set up. No one will connect it to you. Not until the sale's final. As he left, I watched from the porch as the black sedan turned the corner and vanished. Inside, the silence returned. The house seemed to exhale, as if it knew what was coming. It was strange, really, to stand in the middle of a home that you own and realize you're just a guest, but not for much longer. One knock had started the clock ticking. Soon the truth would come through the front door, and Ruby would have no idea what hit her. The next few days passed with a deceptive calm. Ruby was unusually cordial. She'd started knocking softer, smiling tighter, even offering to pick up a few groceries for me when she went out. Clark, too, seemed less tense, less quick to criticize when I switched on the living room lights or made a second cup of tea in the afternoon. I knew what it meant. They were preparing their next ask, and it arrived exactly 4 nights later, wrapped in guilt and garnished with condescension. It started after dinner, the usual watery soup and overcooked rice. I sat at the kitchen table, my newspaper open but unread. Clark was doing something on his laptop, half listening as Ruby moved about the kitchen, wiping clean counters that were already spotless. She turned toward me. Dad, she said too softly. We need to talk. I folded the paper. Here it comes. Our expenses have been going up, she continued. Clark's car needs new brakes. The roof is due for repairs, and the utility rates just spiked again. I hate to ask this, but we need you to start contributing more. How much more? She exchanged a look with Clark. He didn't look up. An extra $500 a month. I didn't answer right away, just let the number settle in the room like a bad smell. I already pay $2,400, I said calmly. That's more than most folks pay for an entire house, Ruby. For one room and some oatmeal. Ruby's face tightened. You live here, Dad. You use our electricity, our water. You share the space. This isn't just a rental room. It's a home. A home, I repeated, almost under my breath. Is that what this is? She heard the edge in my voice but plowed ahead. We're not trying to take advantage, but we're not made of money. Clark and I are doing the best we can. And honestly, it's not fair that we carry the bulk of the expenses. I watched her for a long moment. Then I said, I'll think about it. Her expression soured. Think about it. Yes, I said firmly. Because I don't make decisions like that on the spot. Not at my age. Not when it means rebalancing my budget, or my dignity. Clark closed his laptop with a loud snap and stood. We're not trying to make you feel bad, Earl. We just can't keep covering you. It's not sustainable. I didn't ask you to cover me, I replied. Ruby crossed her arms. You know what? Fine, but you need to decide soon. We're giving you until the end of the week. Either you agree to the new amount, or, she hesitated. The words stuck in her throat, but she forced them out. Or we'll have to ask you to find somewhere else to stay. For a moment, I just stared at her. This woman who once held my hand during thunderstorms and cried into my chest when her pet turtle died. Now she was threatening to evict her own father. Is that what we've come to? I asked quietly. It's not personal, she said. It's just life. It's business. That word, business, echoed in my ears as I stood, left the kitchen and shut my door behind me. I sat in my chair, staring at the small photo of Maggie on my nightstand. She would have known what to say, but she wasn't here anymore. Just me, my thoughts, and a phone sitting quietly on the desk. I picked it up and dialed. Mr. Lang, I said when the voice answered. It's time. I didn't wait for the weekend. The next morning, I packed what little I owned, 2 suitcases, a cardboard box filled with old tools, a few dog-eared mystery novels, and Maggie's picture, carefully wrapped in a flannel shirt. My life, reduced to what could fit in the trunk of a yellow cab. Ruby was at work, Clark too. June had left early for a shift at the cafe. The house was empty, and silent in a way I'd never known it to be. Before leaving, I walked through the rooms one last time. The dining table where Maggie once laid out her crossword puzzles. The staircase where Blake scraped his knee riding a skateboard indoors. The sunlit corner, in the living room where June had taken her first steps. All of it was mine. Every floorboard, every nail, every tile. And yet, I had been treated like a tenant in my own home. That chapter was over. The driver helped me load the bags, and as we pulled away from the curb, I looked back just once. The porch was empty. The shutters closed. The house didn't wave goodbye. The apartment I'd rented downtown wasn't much. 1 bedroom, a narrow galley kitchen, a bathroom with a faucet that squeaked, but it was clean, quiet, and most of all mine. No one would ask how long I kept the lights on. No one would charge me for using the oven. That afternoon, I met Marcus Lang at a small cafe near the courthouse. He arrived on time, well dressed as ever, carrying a folder stuffed with paperwork. I've drafted everything, he said as we sat down. Listing agreement, inspection release, limited liability disclosure, all ready to go. Just need your signature. I glanced through the documents. The asking price, $885,000. That's a bold number, I said. Not for that house, Marcus replied. 3 stories, established neighborhood, pond view. You'll get it, maybe more. We went over the fine print, commissions, contingency clauses, standard legal language. He handled it all like a man who'd done this 100 times. Probably had. There is one thing, I said, setting my pen down. No one knows I own the house. Not my kids, not their spouses. They think they've been renting it from someone else all this time. Marcus blinked, then slowly leaned back in his seat. Sir, I don't usually ask questions, but I've got to say, that's one hell of a family secret. 20 years old, I said. Kept it buried longer than I meant to, but the time's come. He nodded. Understood. We'll proceed through the LLC. The listing agent will represent it as a third-party trust. Your name won't appear until the final deed transfer, and once it's sold, you'll have to notify the current occupants. Standard 30-day notice. Fine by me, I said. I'll let you handle that. He slid the papers across the table. I signed them all without flinching. For a moment after, I just sat there, holding the pen. There was no celebration, no fanfare, just the quiet realization that a 20-year lie was finally turning into a truth no one could ignore. By the time I returned to my apartment, Marcus had already emailed the digital listing. The house was on the market. The clock was ticking, and this time, I held the keys. Days passed in a hush. The calm before the storm. Marcus moved quickly, coordinating private showings while Ruby and Clark were at work. I'd handed him the spare key, and he honored my one request, no trace left behind. 3 offers in 4 days, he told me over the phone. One of them's all cash, $860,000. I nearly dropped the receiver. Cash, full inspection waived, quick closing, retired couple from Connecticut looking to move south. They saw the virtual tour and loved the pond view. I leaned back in the creaky apartment chair and let that sink in. The same pond Ruby used to complain about when the geese got too loud. The same house they claimed was falling apart and draining their finances. I cleared my throat. Accept the offer. Let's move. You got it, Marcus said. We'll start paperwork immediately. You'll have your funds within 3 weeks. And as agreed, I'll notify the current tenants once the sale contract is signed. Tenants. That word never sounded sweeter. I hung up, walked to the window of my modest apartment, and let the spring breeze wash over me. It smelled like fresh soil and new beginnings. That evening, my phone buzzed. Ruby. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Dad. Her tone was lighter than it had been in months. How are you? Just fine, thanks. You settled in okay? I smirked at the effort. The apartment's comfortable, quiet, good neighbors. No one nags me about the thermostat. There was a pause. Then I've been thinking about our last conversation. Maybe I was too harsh. I didn't reply. I waited. I know things got tense, she continued. But we're family, and I don't want to see you struggling. Maybe we could work something out. You don't have to pay the full increase. Just, say $250 extra a month. There it was. The negotiation. The desperate attempt to hold on to what she thought was a dependable monthly check. I stayed calm. That's generous of you, Ruby. But I've already signed a lease. 6 months. Paid in full. I'm settled here. Another pause. But it's not safe. You're not young anymore. What if you fall? What if something happens and no one's there? I've got a phone, I replied, in a sense of balance that would surprise you. Her voice flattened. You've always been stubborn. And you've always been calculating, I said. Some things never change. She didn't take that well. Her tone sharpened. You know you might regret this, Dad. Being alone at your age. It's not easy. Don't call me when you need help. I smiled as I poured myself another cup of tea. I won't. We hung up without goodbyes. I knew she'd feel the sting soon enough. And when Marcus delivered the eviction notice, signed and sealed, she'd realize just how far the roots of her assumptions had grown into someone else's soil. I didn't take pleasure in the pain, but I took peace in the truth. And the truth was already in the mail. It was a sunny Thursday when the truth finally knocked on Ruby's door, though it didn't wear my face. Marcus called that morning with a quiet excitement in his voice. Contract signed, deposit secured. We'll close in 21 days. I'm heading to the property now to deliver the official notice. You're sure you want me to do this in person? He asked. Yes, I said, and don't mention me yet. Not until she asks, he chuckled. Understood. I've got tough skin. I spent the day pretending to read, but the words on the page blurred with every tick of the clock. I imagined the scene like a slow-burning drama. The doorbell rings. Ruby opens it with suspicion. Marcus introduces himself with calm professionalism, and the word eviction lands like a dropped plate on tile. At exactly 11:34 a.m., my phone rang. Ruby. I let it ring once, then picked up. Dad. Her voice trembled with fury. What the hell is going on? Good morning to you too. Don't play coy. Some realtor just showed up at the house with papers saying it's been sold. Sold? He said we have 30 days to move out. That can't be right. You were paying the landlord. I took a slow breath. I was. Then who the hell owns this house? There it was. I leaned back in my chair, heart steady. I do, I said. Silence. Pure deafening silence. I bought it 18 years ago, I continued. After your mother passed, with lottery money. I never told anyone. She gasped. You lied. For 18 years. Yes, but all this time we thought we were helping you. You were struggling. You lived in that tiny bedroom that I paid for. I cut in, along with the utilities. Over $2,000 a month, plus whatever extra charges you invented. You're telling me we've been charging you rent for your own house. I didn't answer that. I didn't have to. And now you're evicting us. she whispered. Your own daughter. No, Ruby. I sold my property. You gave me an ultimatum, remember? Pay more or get out. So I did. I left. And now, so will you. She exhaled, hard voice cracking. This isn't fair. You're right, I said. It hasn't been fair for a long time. You'll regret this, she snapped. So will June. So will the neighbors. Everyone will see you for what you are. An old man who got tired of being used, I said quietly. Let them. She hung up. I sat in silence, listening to the faint ticking of the clock and the gentle hum of life outside my apartment window. A part of me felt a pang, not guilt, exactly, just the ache that comes from cutting ties, even rotten ones. But beneath that ache was something else. Relief, the kind that comes when a secret finally sees daylight. It didn't take long for Ruby to sound the alarm. Less than an hour after she hung up, my phone buzzed again. This time the name flashing across the screen wasn't hers. It was Blake. I let it ring. I even considered ignoring it, but something told me this was part of the unraveling, and I wanted to see just how far the thread would go. Dad, he said, the moment I answered, voice already sharp. What the hell is going on? Hello, Blake. Nice to hear from you too. Don't give me that. Ruby just called me sobbing. Said some stranger showed up with eviction papers. That true? It is. You sold the house, without telling anyone? Didn't need to. It was mine. There was a long pause. Since when? Since 2006. But you always said you were renting. You let Ruby and Clark believe. I didn't let them believe anything. They assumed. I never corrected them. You never asked. He scoffed. So you just watched us struggle with bills while you sat on a gold mine. I watched you take money from me every year, I said, trying to stay calm. For trucks, for school tuition, for down payments on things you couldn't afford. And never once did you offer to help when I needed it. You never said you needed help, because I didn't, I said. But I also didn't expect to be treated like a burden. You're unbelievable, Blake muttered. You betrayed your own kids. No, I said firmly. I protected myself. After years of being milked for every dime I had, I drew a line. I kept my winnings a secret, because I knew the moment you found out, it'd be gone within a year, and you've just proved me right. You think we're all leeches, is that it? I think you've only ever called when you needed something. Tell me, Blake, when's the last time you visited without an ask? Silence. I'm your son, he said finally, but even his voice had lost its fire. Family doesn't do this, I sighed. Family doesn't turn your home into a profit machine either. Ruby charged me rent on a house she didn't own. Clark lectured me about lights and water while I paid their mortgage. I had enough, so this is revenge. It's freedom. Blake huffed. Well, you've got it now. Don't come crawling back when you're old and sick. I'm already old, I said, just not desperate. I hung up before he could reply. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear or regret, but from the sudden, deafening quiet. Like a storm had passed, and left only the clean air of truth behind. They knew now, all of them. The lie was dead, and with it so was their illusion of control. And that, more than any check or property title, was my true inheritance. The calls from Ruby and Blake stopped after that. At least for a while. What came next was expected voicemail threats, long-winded texts full of guilt, outrage, and nostalgia spun into weapons. I read none of it, just deleted them one by one. And then a different name appeared on my phone. June. I hesitated before answering. She was the one person I didn't want to lose in all this. The only one who had looked past the facade even before it cracked. Grandpa. Her voice was quiet, shaken. Hey, sweetheart, I said. You okay? There was a pause. Mom told me everything. That you owned the house. That you sold it. That we have 30 days. I waited, braced myself for disappointment in her tone. But it didn't come. She also said you've been lying to us for years. I closed my eyes. That's true. Why? Because I knew your parents would burn through the winnings like kindling. Because they never appreciated anything that didn't come with a price tag. And because I was tired of being used. Another pause. She said you threw us out on the street. I sighed. You know better than that, June. 30 days is plenty of time to find a new place. Your dad makes good money. Your mom, well, she's always had a nose for shopping on other people's dimes. She chuckled, just faintly. But it was there, a sliver of understanding. I just wish you'd told me sooner, she said. I could have helped. You did, I said. By being the only one in that house who treated me like a person and not a bill. She was quiet again. I could picture her sitting on her bed, legs crossed, eyebrows furrowed in that way Maggie used to do when she was deep in thought. I don't want to lose you, Grandpa, she said finally. You won't, I promised. My door is always open to you. No rent required. She laughed, this time fuller. You're the most stubborn man I know. Runs in the family. I teased. We talked for nearly an hour. About her classes, her part-time job, her dreams of being a journalist. I told her about the little park near my new apartment, the morning walks I'd started taking again, and how I'd finally fixed the old radio from the attic. Before we hung up, she said, Mom's never going to forgive you. I'm not asking her to. She's angry, but also embarrassed. Clark's been on edge too. I think they're fighting about money. Again, I didn't comment. They'll land on their feet, she added. But I think it finally hit them. They never had as much control as they thought. I smiled. Sometimes it takes a jolt to wake people up. And sometimes, she said, it just makes them meaner. Either way, I'm not going back. I wouldn't want you to. Before we said goodbye, I asked, you keeping our little secret? She lowered her voice like she used to when sneaking cookies from the jar. Of course. No one knows I have a trust fund waiting. Smart girl, I said. Your grandpa might have been a fool once, but he's learned his lesson. And for the first time in years, I ended a call with family not feeling depleted, but restored. Spring settled into the city like an old friend, slow and fragrant, with golden sun filtering through every open window. I spent my mornings on the porch of my new house, coffee in hand, watching the tulips sway like tiny flags of freedom. It had been 3 weeks since the sale closed. Marcus called to confirm the funds had cleared. After taxes and closing costs, I pocketed $735,000, more than I'd ever dreamed of when I was wiring transformers in the rain. The first thing I did was buy this new house outright. 1 story, wide hallways, a garden Maggie would have adored. It cost a fraction of the old place, but offered twice the comfort. No stairs, no cold glances, no hidden resentment disguised as hospitality, and best of all, no rent. I had new furniture delivered, real meals stocked in the fridge. I saw a doctor who actually cared and didn't rush through my chart like a mechanic with a schedule. I even started taking short walks again, steps that didn't feel watched, measured, or begrudged. One afternoon, June came to visit. She gasped the moment she stepped through the door. Grandpa, this place is beautiful. She roamed the rooms with wide eyes, fingers tracing fresh countertops, a smile spreading across her face. Mom thought you were living in some dingy apartment downtown, she said. She doesn't need to know otherwise. We made dinner together, real food, not the boiled cardboard Ruby used to serve. We laughed over old stories, remembered Maggie, and talked about the articles June had written for her school paper. She was growing into someone strong and kind, the kind of person you build legacies for. After dessert, we sat on the porch beneath a cotton candy sky. I told her about the trust I'd set up in her name. She froze. Grandpa, no, you've already done so much. It's not a gift, I said. It's an investment, in the only person who never treated me like a wallet with shoes. Tears welled in her eyes. She tried to speak, but all that came was a whispered, thank you. The next week Ruby showed up, unannounced. She stepped out of her car like she was walking into a courtroom, her eyes scanning every inch of the house, the garden, the car in the driveway. So, she said, this is where you disappeared to. I didn't offer her a seat. She crossed her arms. You seem fine. I am. You don't look sick, or broke, or lost, because I'm not. She said nothing for a moment. Then you lied to us. You made it easy, I replied. Her eyes narrowed. We could have used your help, Dad. We're family. No, I said gently. You're relatives. June is family. That stung. I saw it land. She blinked, swallowed hard, but recovered quickly. Clark says we missed a golden opportunity. You missed a relationship, I corrected. The money was never the point. The respect was. She hesitated. I thought you'd be lonelier. I smiled. I'm not. She left shortly after that. No hug, no apology. Just silence, and the sound of her engine disappearing into the street. I didn't expect to see her again, and maybe that was for the best. Some family ties rot quietly until you're brave enough to cut them loose. I'd waited too long, but I'd done it, not out of anger, out of self-respect. The sun dipped lower as I sat back on my porch. June would be over next week, she said. She'd bring one of her articles for me to proofread. I looked out at the world I'd built on the ashes of silence, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel bitter. Just free, no guilt, no secrets, no more playing the fool in my own story. Just me, Edward Kenton, 76 years old, retired, reclaimed, and finally, home.